Hi, my name's Keith Cooper, Northlight Images, and if you've seen some of my videos, you know I look at a lot of different printers. I look at printers of different makes, different types, all kinds of things. My aim, I'm a professional photographer, is always to look for good quality prints, and I want the best prints I can get. Well, good enough, I should say, because there can come a point where just pushing for extra quality isn't actually visible, but that's another matter altogether. And it depends on what you're using the prints for, what you want to achieve with them, who they're for, whether you're selling them. Anyway, this short video is about the notion of the better printer. Is a particular type of printer better than another? This one here, unusual for printers that I look at. This is a Canon G550. It's a dye-based ink. It's a tank printer, so it's got 6 different inks in it, large ink tanks, and I'm in the process of looking at it for a review, and I've produced some very nice pictures on it. But you put that into the context of this is a small and cheap printer. I like making big prints, but I think you can still get good prints out of this. Takes a bit of effort, but you can get good prints. So, what differences are there that you may hear mentioned on forums, other videos, whatever, as to what is best? Well, I always have a great difficulty with the entire concept of best, because the answer is always it depends. Now, I've got a video explaining why that is as well, but let's say basically dye or pigment based. This is dye based. Other printers I've looked at are pigment based. In general, higher quality, longer lasting prints are made by pigments. That can come at a bit of a cost, because sometimes if you want bright, colourful, glossy prints, sometimes dyes look better. They're different markets, they're different directions. Pigment inks tend to be more expensive. Now, I've got another video specifically looking at the dye versus pigment argument, so I won't rerun that one here. A few other things that people regularly come up to me about and ask questions about, because I do welcome the questions, because the questions are quite often what give me ideas for videos. If one person asks a question, then at least 10 others have thought it and not bothered to ask. So yeah, it works that way. Start off, more inks gives you a bigger gamut. Well, gamut is the range of colours that's printable by a particular printer and inkset and paper combination. Some papers have a wider gamut, wider range of colours, so gloss luster papers tend to have a wider range of colours available with the same inks than you would get with art papers. Well, that's fair enough, that's just about paper choice. And I've got a video that covers paper choice, how you should choose your papers, and why you shouldn't just rush out and buy some famous brand name papers, because without experience that'll get you nowhere, well, other than using up ink and paper, an expensive paper at that. So, do more inks give you a wider gamut? Well, maybe. It depends on the type of inks. If you think of the basic 4-colour printer, it has a black, and then it has 3 colours, cyan, magenta, yellow. Now, the tones you see in your picture, in your print, are made up of small dots of each of those mixed up together to give the impression of smooth colour. And testament to the technology, inkjet printers work really well and they produce great looking prints. And unless you get really, really close, often you can't even see the dots. So what about these extra inks? Well, first of all, you need to print very light colours, you need quite sparse ink dots. If you've got a strong colour, you need the ink's dots spread quite widely, and that reduces your resolution and increases the likelihood of actually the dots being visible if your eyesight's sharp enough at close range. So you introduce light colour inks, typically for light cyan and light magenta. What they do is they are nothing more than diluted colours. They're weaker dots, so you can get away with putting more light cyan dots down than you could dark cyan dots. So those extra inks are more about smoothness. Sometimes you'll get, such as in this printer here, you get a red ink. Now, apart from the fact that different manufacturers, their definition of what is a red ink varies widely, those coloured inks can be used to just stretch the gamut in a certain area, so improve the rendition of some colours. They allow a little bit of a change, but I'm going to say that unless you're getting up to big expensive printers, the pigment ink printers with say 12 inks in them, you really don't notice that much of a gamut improvement just from adding a pusher colour, because it pushes the gamut a little bit wider. It doesn't make that much of a difference. Remember, a lot of the stuff you read about printers, you need to disentangle it from marketing. The entire thing is perfused with the air of marketing. Everything you read about printers that comes from the manufacturers. Now, that's not to say it's wrong or it's dishonest. It is marketing, and that has an aim for it. So, why wouldn't they be happy for you to have the idea that you get better colours with more inks? You can do, but it depends how those inks are used. It depends on the profiling, depends on the driver, and all kinds of other stuff as well. It's about smoothness more than anything. Likewise, grey inks. Now people say, this printer has several grey inks, therefore it must be good for black and white. Well, it would be if they were properly grey. Often these inks are not properly grey, and certainly dye inks can vary in their slight colour tinge depending on the lighting. So whether I'm looking at daylight, from outside it's a cloudy day today, or the lighting in here, which is a LED lamps, halogen replacement bulbs. So that's the lighting I've got in here. Now, greys, what do? Well, actually, greys allow you to build up density for non-saturated colours. So if you want a greyish, if you want a sort of not very saturated magenta, rather than just adding bright magenta inks, you can add a bit of grey and a little bit of magenta. Now, this will be familiar to anyone who's ever done industrial printing, commercial printing, since the whole aspect of this about how you build profiles and stuff like that comes in the mixture of inks and how you can get away with mixing them together. That's interesting, but not really necessarily that relevant to desktop printers like this, even relatively large photo printers. Greys, they can, and certainly pigment inks, a nice range of grey inks can improve the smoothness and linearity of your black and white. For a printer like this, a grey ink in here is more about improving the smoothness of the colours we've got, because we've still got cyan, magenta, yellow here. Okay, we've got a red as well, but cyan, magenta, yellow. And the grey mixed with those gives the equivalent of having light cyan, light magenta. Yellow is light anyway, so yeah, that's an extra one. But that's how the greys mix. So when somebody said, this printer has 2 grey inks, so must be great for B&W, for her black and white. Yeah? Really? Have you tested it? Well, I have tested it, and it does sometimes help. But once again, it's a maybe. For printers like this, certainly commercial, for consumer use, and for semi-pro use, and this is not sort of fine art reproduction work and this, the greys are more aimed at smoothness for the bright colours, because these colour inks in this, without the light cyan, light magenta, or even light cyan or something, whatever like that, without those, you're having to put too many dots of dark colour down to try and build up light colours. So that's where that one comes in. So, but once again, marketing, well, they're quite happy for you to believe that more grey inks makes for great black and white. Test it to see. That's one of the things I always do. It's one of the reasons I have loads of black and white prints here, for I'm looking at black and white performance of this particular printer. Now, this is the same effectively whether it's Canon, whether it's Epson. And this comes down back to another question I'm asked. Is it better having a printer with replaceable print heads or fixed print heads? Now, I've had people say each way. Frankly, it makes no real difference. The reason that Canon print heads can be replaced is that they are a technology and they are counted as consumables, because it's a technology that has a limited, fairly good, but still limited life expectancy because of the way that ink droplets are forced out of the head onto the paper. Epson uses a different technology which should last as long as the printer. Now, obviously, any technology will have duff units, they will fail. You'll get printers that are no good. You will get, from any company, you'll get printers that out of the box are not that good. Now, I've had this happen for test printers from Epson and Canon. I don't say it's a problem because I expect it, and also I'm often asked to look at printers which are pre-production ones, so I cut them a bit of slack. If you send me a printer 2 months before it's going to be released, I expect maybe a few niggles or something. If every one I get, if I have to replace it and it's useless, then I'm going to say it's useless. But I don't see that. In general, printers are very reliable. The replaceable print head, fixed print head, a lot of people have very strong opinions on which manufacturer is better. So are Canon printers better than Epson printers, or the other way around? Is one better than the other? Much like the arguments I see, Canon cameras, Sony cameras, Nikon cameras. Actually, most good cameras are pretty good these days. Even more so for printers. I'm going to say that it's more of interest for people who want to split hairs and create an argument. All printers I've looked at are capable of good results. Most modern cameras are capable of good results. This leads up to a slight problem. Not a problem for me, because I can happily say it. If you can't make great looking photos with a modern camera and a modern printer that could be a better one than this, or if you can't do that, it's not the camera's fault, it's not the printer's fault, it's not the paper's fault, it's your fault. It is much easier to go out, buy some new kit, or have a new printer, buy some new paper in some forlorn hope that it will make everything work okay. No, it doesn't work like that. If you don't put the effort into actually working out how to print, and it goes for your photography as well, and I've got videos covering lots of different aspects of this. If you don't put the effort in, then you're going to get rubbish prints. I make rubbish prints sometimes, and when I make rubbish prints, it's almost always my fault. So there you go. One other little bit, printer maximum resolution, marketing stuff. The numbers you read, they're marketing. So remember, what you read about printers is heavily influenced by marketing. All the printers I've tested are capable of making great results. If driven properly, if worked well. So, think yourself lucky that you've got all these printers and various stuff. The one other thing I would say, if you want to be cheap and put rubbish inks in or use rubbish paper into a printer and you get bad results, then, what am I going to say? Once again, it's your fault. Except that the challenge is for you to make use of it. These things are capable of some great looking pictures, which I've produced I've looked at quite a lot of printers over the last year or so, and I've not had a bad one yet. They've had niggles, they've had things I would improve, but a bad printer? No. And I'll just finish in saying, when you hear somebody on a forum ranting about Epson or ranting about Canon or any other make or anything like that, work out why they're bothered by it. I've had people say, I'll never buy another brand, whatever. You ask them why, and they had a Duff printer 17 years ago. Newsflash, technology moves forward, has changed a lot. So there you go. Few thoughts based on questions I regularly get asked. and my answers to them. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments on the video, and I hope this and my other videos are of some interest and some use, so please subscribe as well. Thank you very much.